Just last month, I took the day off work to watch the Back to Teacher trilogy. Sorry, Nick. And one of the things that I noticed was that I never noticed before that how much I was like George McFly. I had a passion just like George. George wanted to write a book. I wanted to help people. But like George as well, I lacked confidence in, uh, in my own ability and myself. But now here I am talking to you at TEDx Omagh. So whether you're in the audience, whether you are watching on YouTube, or even if you downloaded me on the TEDx app to watch me in the toilet, forget about that. Today I'm going to tell you my story. I was born on the 3rd of December 1979, and since I was born there was a lot of problems with my breathing, which caused a lot of concern. So I was immediately raced up to the Royal Victoria Hospital in Belfast. But thankfully things worked out okay for the short term. But my mother and father noticed that things just weren't as they should have been. So they constantly went to the doctors and surgeons to say, there's something wrong here, but they were always dismissed. My mother even went to the local GP in the 1980s and says, there's definitely something wrong here. Where the doctor had told my mum and father, you've just been over anxious. But 18 months later, we finally found a diagnosis. So I finally found out what I have. Now, unfortunately, it's a very long name and very hard to pronounce. So I'm going to give it a go here. But normally what I do is when I go to pronounce it, does anybody here remember the TV program Friends? There's a character in it called Joey Tribbiani, and he's an actor. And he also gives us advice for anybody that stumbles on a script. If you don't know what you're doing or you need time to think, just do the smell fart acting. So I have mucopolysaccharide Markey's disease. Now, now what that means, I'm not entirely sure myself, even though I've lived with it for 36 years. But as you can quite plainly see, I'm 3 foot tall. I also have hearing problems. I've got scoliosis. And something of late concern, I have a problem with my respiratory, which means I have a lot of breathing difficulties. But even though I am short in stature, I'm not short in life experiences. I attended mainstream primary and secondary school, and they were all fantastic experiences. It shaped me into the man that I am today and showed me that my life has no limits. I organised a lot of events at school, charity events, and even got to annoy my teachers and headmasters by getting them to do reconstruction work around the school, including installing a disabled bathroom. So I have to thank the school for that, because they've set me down the path that I would ultimately become. But thank God for them, they tarmacked that path for me. I was also a member of Children's BBC Newsround, and I was a press packer. And one of the jobs they give out was a competition, and they asked people to talk about amusement parks. Now, I had been to Disneyland Paris the year before, so I thought, what will I talk about? And suddenly I had an idea. Let's talk about what the disabled access is like at your Disney compared to Bundoran and Portrush. I had a lot to talk about. And to my surprise, that I was one of the 10 people selected to go. And the prize was to go to Disneyland to be the first person ever on Space Mountain. So I was full of excitement. I got to go with the BBC, and I found out exactly what it is like behind the BBC. And basically what it is, lots and lots of reshoots. So the moment came, we were ushered into the side and said, time to go on Space Mountain. And then the safety officer looked at me and went, I'm sorry, Dermot, you're too short for this ride. So I got to wave goodbye to my father as he became the first person on Space Mountain. I then attended the local college as a computer student. Immediately I went around with a few of my friends and other people to establish the first student union, and I was quickly elected the disability officer. And we did a lot of work in my short time there. We got a lot of automatic doors installed into the college, and at that time there was a lot of rough stone between the buildings, and I got them to tarmac all the place. So the foundations of who I was about to become was being set at this moment. I then attended Derry College, and it was a big challenge for me. But this was the first time I moved outside the family home, and I found it quite nervous. But thanks to the support of my family and friends and the great network that was within the college, it was a great experience, and I had a lot of fun. Some would say too much fun, so I'll talk no more about college. And then this is where I started to work. I moved to Omagh Enterprise. And when I first got the job, I must admit I was very, very worried. I had a lot of concerns. Would I fit in with everybody at work? Would I be able to keep up with the pace? And how would they find me coming into their environment? But I have to say that my concerns were unfounded, because I could say that Omagh Enterprise and all the staff quickly became a second family to me. Sorry, Mum and Daddy. But over the time, I found that I was unable to keep up with the work. I was working 5 days a week, almost full hours, but I started to get tired and wasn't able to focus as well as I could do. But I felt I should keep these concerns to myself, because I worried, maybe being somebody disabled, that if I speak out and say, I can't do this anymore, it will set other people with disabilities back. So after a lot of hiccups at work, a lot of tears and headaches, I had to eventually put my hand up and say, I can't do this anymore. But thankfully, work were fantastic. They gave me some time off to recuperate, and whenever I came back, they changed my duties and hours about. And I can say that since that moment, my job at work has evolved into different new roles, and not only has it been beneficial to myself, but beneficial to the company as well. So I can say to anybody that a disability, or even without a disability, if you feel you can't do something, put your hand up. People want to help you. Now, I used to have quite an active social life, and I used to go away at weekends. I used to go to places like Belfast, and on several occasions I went on stag do's, but we'll not talk too much about that either. But one of the main concerns that I found was when I went there, we went to lots of different bars, nightclubs and restaurants, but I couldn't get in. And I found this quite frustrating. I went online and I said, couldn't find any information. So I said to myself, there's a gap in knowledge here. I'm going to see if I can fill it. So this is when I first set up My Way Access. And basically it was an online directory for anybody that wanted to discuss facilities in different towns and cities across Ireland and the UK. But ultimately it became so much more. It became more about social reform and acting as a voice for other people with disabilities. I created a few blogs over the years, and some of the stuff that I talked about in the past, which is still quite relevant today, is welfare reform, tax credits, and I even talked about how do you address somebody with a disability, what are the right words to use and not use. But I also discussed a lot of different issues. One of the main things that I talked about was a treatment called visioning, and this is basically a treatment that's available for somebody that's in my condition, which has been approved by the EMA and the FDA. This treatment is not available in the UK at present, even though it is available in 30 different countries. But we'll get back to that shortly. About 6 years ago, I went on a religious pilgrimage to Lourdes, which I found was a wonderful experience. But on my way back on the airplane, my respiratory totally gave up and I collapsed on the plane. But thankfully, to the quick reaction of all the medical staff on the plane, I survived that. Although I have to wonder about the man above. Well, most people go to Lourdes for the cure, and it nearly killed me. But since that moment, my health did take a setback, and the doctors say it wouldn't get back to what it used to be, such as the way my disability works. So since that moment, every night I have to wear an oxygen mask at night. But 3 years ago, my respiratory collapsed again, and I ended up back in hospital. And now I have to wear a nipping machine every night, which helps me breathe and gives me energy during the day. So this brings me back to visiting the treatment that I was talking about a short while ago, and it shows me why it's so important to somebody that has my disability needs this. Here in the north of Ireland, there's only 15 people have morpheos, and across the UK it's 105. So we're not talking great numbers. I joined a campaign along with Angela Patton, Sarah Long, and Keeping Sam Smiling in the UK, where we wrote hundreds and hundreds of letters to all the local MLAs, TDs, and MPs across the UK and Ireland, telling them why this treatment is so badly needed. And I'm happy to announce that last Monday, just a week ago, perfect timing for today, that the drug approving body have announced that they are recommending the treatment for my disability. So just to end the note, basically the moral of the story is the only person that's holding you back is you. If you want something, visualize it and go for it. Thank you.